man. Speaking of screwing things up, though, let's jump right into the show, boys. Bill Belichick. That, way to turn a negative into a positive. Maybe not what UNC is doing here. But all right, everybody wants a piece here. Who's going first?
I think I'll let Cole go first. Yeah, I'm curious.
So last night I was doing my fantasy football draft for the radio station, and we're in the middle of watching as my -3.5 is severely going to hit the over. And we're fantastically enjoying and indulging in wings and beer and watching as Bill Belichick has a 24-year-old girlfriend that is very unhappy with her situation living out in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, now that her team is very much in doubt and jeopardy for the rest of the season. And I figured, if Max Johnson is going to be the exact same age as Bill Belichick's girlfriend, I probably have a lot of players on this fantasy team that also are around the same age as Bill Belichick's girlfriend. So my team name this year is Jordan Hudson's Dream Team Boys. And we are very excited to bring home a championship to the city of Houston, and Jordan Hudson being the GM, probably pre-team president. She basically is taking over the Cleveland Indians in Major League. Look, bottom line is that, let's just start off with this. I really like TCU going into the season. I thought that they were one of the more slept-on teams that wasn't getting enough national attention. Thought that, yes, the running back room was a question, but Andy Avalos' defense, Josh Hoover coming back for another season. We talked about the wide receiver room. They had really good play on all stages. Eric McAllister did nothing last night, and it didn't matter. They still had over 300 passing yards. So it just shows you the validity of what this team is going into 2025 with Kendall Briles, with Andy Avalos, with Sonny Dykes. Very much a complete unit on all three stages of the game. But for me, again, it goes back to what I hated about the hire from the get-go. You went and you fired an older coach who was losing ties with players to bring in an older coach who doesn't have ties with players. Bubba Cunningham, what are you doing? This is a program that should be considered a rising star in football. This is a program that should be balancing in its NIL funds and its overall metrics to allow them to bring in personnel players that consider the ACC, or better yet, just Chapel Hill, a dream destination. You've seen success at its peak at Chapel Hill. You've watched as lesser tier coaches have come into the program and be able to build some sustainability and continuity and some consistency. And you throw all that away because Bill Belichick is available. Listen, I hated the hire of Urban Meyer when it was made by the Jacksonville Jaguars because there's no correlation between the college game and the NFL game other than it's the same ball, which is not even close to being the exact same thing. That's all it is. And you can't treat the NFL like you do college. You also can't, in this day and age where revenue sharing is a big time deal, where NIL has become such a major emphasis, hire a guy who has no ties to the college game whatsoever and think because if he is a mastermind defensively, you're going to be able to get it done. The hiring of Freddie Kitchens, I never liked. That automatically was putting you behind the sticks. The internal promotion of getting Steve Belichick to leave Washington to come to Chapel Hill to basically be the head coach in waiting and getting your son a job, didn't really like. And it really frustrated me because if there were good coaches that were being considered for the opportunity. There was a rumor that Clark Lee was going to leave Vanderbilt to go to UNC. There was rumors and speculation that John Summerall down at Tulane was going to take the UNC job. There were other coaches listed as potential candidates, really quality names that could have continued the balance and the predecessor of what is North Carolina football. And especially in that state, right now the status of Duke is unknown, where the status of NC State is unknown, where the ACC also is looking for that premier Tier 2 program that can elevate itself into Tier 1. It felt like this was the opportunity to get someone young, someone up and coming, someone with a good balance and understanding of what it takes to build a program in the right direction, and somebody who would be here for the long haul. The feeling I got last night is that Bill Belichick is basically a sideshow that's here on rental. He's here on loan for holiday. He's not here for the long haul. He's here for the short term, and it's going to be even shorter because of him hearing the boos last night, watching as fans left the stadium, was the exact same way he felt when he was done in the NFL. You don't want to have that feeling. You didn't come to North Carolina to be right back at square one where your career ended. You want to end your career on a high note. I don't think it's going to get much higher. I don't. I think it's very much like Aaron Rodgers walking out with the American flag on September 11th, and 4 plays later, he's getting carted off the field. It's that level of you had your moment in the sun. Now it's time to actually put up or shut up, and you better shut up until you win some games convincingly.
It's a long season. There's still a lot. We have to see what happens with this team, but this potentially set back the program in ways that we don't even really comprehend just yet. You guys know about all the conversation that's been out there about UNC, Florida State, Clemson potentially leaving the ACC at some point. UNC is leading that charge, had been leading that charge before Bill Belichick arrived. And frankly, the team had been incrementally improving over the years. And then you get Bill Belichick, and all of a sudden it felt like, boy, this is going to just strap a rocket to our back. And yes, the basketball argument was going to lead UNC to that new conference. Now it's the only thing that really feels like it's going to take you somewhere other than the ACC. This is just a really bad look, I think, for broadcast media more than anything. The hype machine built this entire circumstance. And to your point, Bubba Cunningham and UNC were complicit in this. They would not have pulled out all the stops for the event last night. It looked like a big event. It looked like a big deal. Everybody and their brother showed up for the game. Lawrence Taylor, Michael Jordan, Roy Williams himself, Mia Hamm, Randy Moss. Like, there were all these legendary dignitaries, as they called it on the air, there to watch the game. And they were also comparing it to when Deion Sanders first started at Colorado, and he had all these celebrities there coming to the games. The enormous difference was that Deion he got embarrassed by Oregon, right? Like TCU, I don't think we're putting into that upper echelon of world beaters that, like, Oregon really put Colorado in its place, and Colorado went on to win a few more games. And clearly there was talent in the likes of Travis Hunter and Shadur Sanders, and Deion stayed the course. And look at where Colorado is now. So hats off to Deion. But the hype machine of, like, I just remember the Countdown Show, and Pat McAfee is solely picking UNC because, and I quote, Michael Lombardi and Bill Belichick are my friends. Is that what this has come down to? Like, is this what the sport is all about? Like, we do not care about who we think is actually going to win and lose, breaking down X's and O's, who's the better team, who is the better personnel, all that sort of stuff. Is just like, nope, I'm friends with that guy. So I'm going to say all the things I have to say about him into the public to potentially make this thing happen. And let's not forget the quote by Michael Lombardi. UNC football is the 33rd NFL team. You have got to be freaking kidding me.
Speaking of quotes, think about the quote by Kirk Herbstreit. They're just not good, right? Like, and now I know he came out and correct. Oh, I was talking about the TV camera guy, whatever. I even believe Kirk there, but don't correct yourself. Just they're not good, right? It's okay, right? Even if it was a what do you call that? Freudian slip like that. Yes, it worked.
Yeah, he said he was talking to his spotter. Herbstreit's son tweeted some stuff.
the dog
in his commentary. This is a multimillionaire, by the way, who gets bent out of shape about social media. Like a multimillionaire who gets bent out of shape about hot mic. Come on, like, you don't need that.
You can also just own it. That's the other thing. You could just own it if you want.
And you can say nothing. PR.
Yeah, 2025. Like, I understand there are some things in this world that are actually cancelable, but like cancel culture really has like died down. Like, unless you do something like you don't even have to apologize anymore. You just keep living your life, right? And then we get to Tuesday and another thing happens.
Right.
Like, never apologize, right? Now, if you do something that's like, if you do something off the rails, though, you're going to jail. So, like, who cares? You don't have to apologize then. Just go sit in a cell. But anyway, all that said, boy, that took a turn.
Go dark. Dark. Why don't we? Here we are just talking about Bill Belichick sucking as a college coach. Now we're talking about sitting in jail cells. TJ, what are we doing, man?
The power to after dark. That's what you guys get for an 8:30 taping.
Here's what I'll say. I feel bad for Gio Lopez. Because I think he has real potential, and I don't think he's in a situation where he's going to get properly developed. I like Freddie Kitchens as a NFL offensive coordinator, and even that is like kind of a stretch because we've seen how that's gone at the pro level in the past. I thought for a second, hey, maybe taking NFL acumen and applying it to college football, it might work out. And I'm sure Bill Belichick thought that exact same thing. So Brett McMurphy had himself a field day on social media last night, and then almost unjustifiably so, Jordan Hudson got crushed on social media. All she was doing was watching the game. I understand it's an easy target, but the tenor of this entire evening shifted so quickly. the most hilarious thing, the balloons in the background of Bill Belichick's presser after the fact, that my brain went to, I'm like, I bet you Jordan put those up. I bet you Jordan had the idea, we should put up balloons.
Balloons.
The old Bill Belichick would have popped those out with a Bowie knife on his way to the press conference and torn everything down. But to the point Cole was making, I think the entire point of this was for him to try and get an NFL job. And that cycle came and went, and it didn't happen. And now he's stuck in Chapel Hill, and he's got a bad team, and his legacy continues to diminish. And he's probably just going to bite the bullet on this season, and hopefully he rides off into the sunset at some point.
On the season, when you look at their schedule, they're going to win the next couple, and they might even win the next 3 because they've got UCF on there too. That will be a game worth watching, is UNC versus
At the
UCF.
bounce house. Ooh.
Oh, yeah. I actually think that one will be fun because, I mean, UCF nearly blew it against Jacksonville State. And we didn't predict this game. I did pick it on another show. I picked TCU. I don't know if you guys, I know you're Cole, wasn't SEC. I don't know if you guys predicted this anywhere, but I took TCU pretty handily, like 10 plus. And so
What are you talking about? I my best bet last week was TCU. It was my favorite bet of the week. I was all over TCU.
Listen, I just saw the first of your best bets on the on the graphic, and I stopped reading after that. So you heard
I'm
my
4-1 this week over at SEC Unfiltered. So if you ever want to come and just trust me, there's a game that we're going to be breaking down tonight that's on my best bets for week 2. I'm already want to know. Can we also just real fast, and I understand that this is a let's crap on Bill Belichick for continuing to ruin your career on making it to Canton and not going out in style take, but can we give credit where credit's due to this overall TCU roster? They showed up. You know, a lot of people, I think, went into this game not understanding that TCU has spent the better part of the offseason building its roster and putting itself in a great position where it can be effectively one of the premier teams in the Big 12. Texas and Oklahoma left, which left a giant hole for somebody to take the mantle as the flagship program. They've done great on the recruiting trail. They've been great in the transfer portal. They've done good on retaining talent instead of letting it walk out to other programs. And last night, it culminated together. The rushing attack that we all had questions about going into this season. I thought it was the worst rushing attack in the Big 12. It had over 170 rushing yards. You had multiple players go for 15 plus yards downfield. Kavorian Barnes had 113 yards himself. Jordan Dwyer came on in from Idaho. Last season, he was playing for the Vandals. And he had over 1,100 receiving yards. He looks like he's on pace to have a Biletnikoff award-worthy season. And I get it. It's against UNC that right now is dreadful, but still, you got to see him step on up in place of the Savion Williams and Jack Becks of the world. You watch as this defense force multiple turnovers. DJ Rogers had a good game. Trent Battle had a good game. This is a really good TCU team that made it clear we're not going to fall into the trap of losing to another high-profile coach like we did in 2023. We're mentally, physically better prepared to handle anything thrown our way. And then we're going to go ahead and just shove it down everyone's throats on Twitter and make sure that they know that we are as lethal and as petty as humanly possible. The Hypnotoad is back. We are calling out people. We have receipts. We have bookmarks. We are not afraid. You touch the toad. Now you get the Hypno. That is what we saw last night. It was fantastic.
The Twitter, because the game wasn't really that good. Now, if you're a TCU fan, the game was not that exciting. It was maybe one of the worst big games of the weekend. No, I'll say that. It was worse. Yeah, I like South Carolina, Virginia Tech more. I liked Tennessee, Syracuse even more. Sorry, Nate, in the background here. But the Twitter, like trolling, like that is what I live for. I just all day, I kept seeing, you know, like Twitter's got this thing now where, or X or whatever you call it, like you used to be like, you'd see a tweet retweeted. And then once you saw it retweeted once, you wouldn't keep seeing it all day. Now, like you just see stuff over and over and over again, every time somebody retweets it. And I usually get annoyed by that. I didn't get annoyed by any, like all of my FSU people, all the SEC or Big Three, Miami, Florida, all the people that follow me or that I follow, I guess, were retweeting that stuff all day. And it was so much better than the game was. Like it was worth it to have a crappy game on Monday night to get to see the Twitter trolling that happened by TCU. What's your adjusted win total for UNC now? We didn't do a season preview for them, but what do you got? Like 6-6, best case?
I'm now looking at their schedule. Like I agree with you. They should beat Charlotte. They should beat Richmond here in the next 2 weeks, but then it's at the bounce house. UCF, like I think it's being on the road that I think more than anything I like UCF in that situation, but I think it'll be close. Then you play Clemson. Then you're at California. Do you see the Calgorithm return? You're against UVA. You're at Syracuse. I don't like that for UNC. You're home against Stanford. Stanford won't win a game this season. So at Wake Forest.
I think that's a win. They're terrible too.
Yeah, 6-6 feels right. So like I think that's the thing is that, kind of going back to Dion, is that by the end of the season, if they somehow make themselves bowl eligible and they smooth things out, that'll be fine. I am curious to see if the media spin cycle gets out of control, because Jordan Hudson was the biggest story in college football just a handful of months ago. And then Bill shut that stuff down. What happens when you start losing? I'm curious.
I had North Carolina as a 6-6 team going into this year, largely because of I just didn't like the hire of Bill Belichick. Nothing for me has changed, except maybe one game against Syracuse or against Stanford. I think I actually had Stanford being one of their wins. Cal is now a loss for me. Like, did you watch that freshman? I know I'm JSP is what I'm gonna have to call him until JPS is what I'm gonna have to call him.
JKS.
JKS, yeah. Because of I'm not gonna know how to say his last name, and I'm not gonna be disrespectful like that. But holy, like I owe the city of Berkeley an apology because of how bad. Boys, I had them going 1-11. Like I was so down on Cal going into this year, and this was their one win. But like that has drastically changed. I think that they're a 6-6, 5-7 team out in Chapel Hill, which says a lot when this schedule is so manageable.
Before we go on to some more previews for this weekend, I want to do some picks very quickly. We did this the other day. We're going to do 6 more. Let's go over to the Sleeper app for just a minute. Sleeper, you get a 100% match up to $100. Use code CFA. Listen, one thing I'll tell you guys about the Sleeper app too, just really quickly before we get into it, is I was complaining about the ESPN, the new refresh to the ESPN app, because that's just always what I've used for like scores and stuff. The Sleeper score bugs are actually pretty good. And one thing I really like about it, and I didn't know this during the game and wouldn't have had service anyway, but people can like live comment on it. And the best thing about anything on the internet is always reading the comments. Cole's always telling us what you guys are saying in the comments. Oh, yeah. And like fans of these teams can comment on live plays that are happening. And I know that's what we use Twitter for. I get that. But going back and looking at some of the Alabama fan meltdowns on some of the big plays that were happening on the Sleeper app. Now I saw them later. It would have been better in live time. That's a very underrated feature of the app. Now, I want you to go on and try and make some money and either love or hate our picks, all that stuff. But that is really cool. So go check out the Sleeper app. A good score bug. They keep you updated on all the sports, not just college football. NFL, obviously, the Cowboys and Eagles kick off on Thursday night. MLB, whatever you want to follow, they've got it. And you can play the more or less game on any of it. But let's start with Iowa State and Iowa. 28.5 rushing yards for Mr. Gronkowski, the quarterback at Iowa.
Mark Gronowski, not to correct you, but Gronowski. I will take the over, even though he was dealing with cramps quite a bit and had a rocky start in his first game as an Iowa Hawkeye. But give me Gronowski.
There's a word I'm supposed to use.
I know or less.
More or less.
Yeah. I'm gonna go less. And maybe this is just me. I don't know. I genuinely don't. It's just this is going to be a really interesting game. It's in Ames. I do think that this defense for Iowa State is really potent. It's really physical. They showed up in the fourth quarter against Kansas State. They showed up in the fourth quarter. They showed up for 4 quarters against South Dakota. I'll go less.
I'm going to go more on this one. Interestingly enough, sometimes the more or less is more juiced. On our next one, it will be. But this one's a dead even heat. I'll go more. I think if Iowa's going to have a chance in this game, they're going to have to run effectively, both quarterback and running back. So I'll go more than 28.5. Again, I said this yesterday. I hate that sack yardage counts, and I think that could play a factor here, but I'll go more. Hanson, Iowa running back, 57.5.
I'll go more.
Oh, I'm 1,000% going more. I think Hanson's going to have to be this game plan, and we're going to break it down a little bit. I see a lot of the exact same things that you need to hit for both of these squads to win, and I just trust Hanson a little bit more at this point.
Yeah, I'll go more on this one as well. This one's juiced a little bit more, so you get a 1.9 times multiplier as opposed to 1 2/3. So you get a little extra juice that way. I'll go more. John Mateer, more or less 1.5 passing touchdowns.
I'll say less. I think Michigan's defense has a good showing here, even though it's a road game, but they're going to need the defense to keep them in this one. I think Underwood and company are going to be able to run the football. So time of possession type of game, kind of ugly. So I could see Mateer getting it done with his legs a little bit more than with his arm in this game.
Maybe this is just me looking into the New Mexico game. I know they had 3 turnovers, but they also allowed several explosive plays. I just feel like that this is going to be a matchup with Keontez Lewis or Deion Burks, or if you get Giovanni Gibson back, and you're probably not going to have Giovanni Gibson for this game, but still, you're going to find your way into the end zone. I think you're going to need Mateer's arm more so than his legs because they're preparing for his legs. I'll go more. I think that 1.5 is fine. 2 touchdowns is a good spot.
I like more on this one as well. The under is what's juiced a little bit more on this one. So I think they're kind of telling you the more is more likely, although it's a good line for sure. I'll go more. I think he gets it. Although it's going to piss me off when he has 2 rushing touchdowns and I lose this thing. Isaac Brown at Louisville. Man, this is a big number. More or less than 99.5, 100 rushing yards for Isaac Brown. It is JMU, but I just wonder how much he plays. I'll go first on this one because I always wait for you guys to go. I'll go less here. I know that's tough, but less than 100 is hard, man. I know it's JMU, but give me less.
I will also go less, because there's a good chance Louisville will start cycling guys in and out.
Isaac Brown in the game against Eastern Kentucky rushed for 126 yards, and I do think that JMU is going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the Sun Belt. But it's Isaac freaking Brown. We don't talk about him enough as a really good running back in college football. Not a great running back in the ACC, just great for the sport. Take the more and run with it all the way to the bank because I'm going to cash in on this later.
JMU. Now, this is the Friday night game. Again, against Louisville, Alonzo Barnett, 186.5 passing yards. Listen, I have no confidence that JMU can do this, so give me the less on this one.
I will go with more simply because it could be just garbage time stuff, like having to throw the ball just to even attempt to move things.
Barnett finished with 130 passing yards against Weber State. Less. 100% less.
And then everybody's favorite. I made sure that I found a screenshot that had this in it. Bryce Underwood, 1.5 passing touchdowns against that Oklahoma defense on the road. Man, I really want to believe in this kid and take the more, but I just can't see it. So I'll go less here. Sorry to the Michigan fans that think we hate them.
I will also go less, and I just want Michigan fans to know that I do hate you, and I think ways to make you cry. It's my favorite thing.
Michigan fans, I'm not reading your fucking paragraphs all the time on what you come with in the comment section like I care. Because if you really think I do, but I don't. I don't care. I know you're going through some things. But I'm going to take the more. See, I'm on your side on this one. I think that Bryce Underwood's going to get at least 2 passing touchdowns in this game.
Look at Cole being a good guy. Again, code CFA to get 100% match up to $100. All right, let's talk about Duke and Illinois. Boy, when we started the show, yeah, both these were good teams. But could you imagine like a year or so ago, like saying like, "Hey, we're going to preview Duke and Illinois"? But this is a fun one. Who wants to start here? I guess it's a Big Ten team, so we'll go with Illinois. Tom, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm curious to see more of both these teams because week 1, cupcake games for both teams. They played extremely well, and now it's a situation where Duke gets to host this thing. So I think if this were in Champaign, I'd feel a little bit more confident. I've seen some lines where Illinois is favored by 2.5, but it is a road game. This is tough because I like what Bielema and Altmaier put together last season, but the pieces they lost are important. The playmakers he had at wide receiver, the thumpers that he had at tailback, it's just not the same look that Illinois has had in the past. I think there's a little bit too much pressure on Altmaier. Not that he can't live up to it, but I think there's just a ceiling to what his overall ability is. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten, but he was helped so much by Franklin and Bryant last year in the passing game. Not having that and then still trying to see like, hey, who's going to be that clear-cut number one, number two, those alphas for him to help him out in the passing game. I'm curious to see. I think this will be kind of a Big Ten style dogfight where it's a little bit ugly. It is still early in the season. I haven't gotten to see a whole lot of Mensa, the Duke quarterback, so I am curious to see what he's all about. And let's not forget, Manny Diaz, the head coach for Duke, is very familiar with Big Ten ball, having been the defensive coordinator for Penn State. He knows how to attack teams like this. So what's the effect on this game? And there is now this opportunity, kind of we were talking about, UNC flaming out so badly. There is that opportunity for teams like Duke to make some noise in the top 5 of the ACC. We were talking about it a lot after Clemson went down, Florida State won, Miami won. It was like, okay, there's a little upheaval and a little bit more competition in the ACC than we thought. So I'm very intrigued by this game, honestly.
Tom, I will take front and center stage because of one main thing. This is my favorite game of the week. This is far away. If you would have told me 10 years ago, I would be breaking down a Duke-Illinois game, and it was in football, not basketball,
right,
I would call you insane. But I love this game. This is such a fun matchup because of what you have coming in from Champaign, what you currently have in Durham, and these teams emulate very similar mindsets. Both headlined by two coaches with a defensive background, both known for their physicality in the trenches, both on the offensive line and the defensive line, both known for having a ground and pound attack, both known as academic institutions, and both having quarterbacks that have questions to answer, but you really feel good about them being the leaders in the locker room. You didn't learn much, I think, from the Western Illinois 52-3 debacle. That was the thing that happened out in Champaign. And if you did, I mean, you're probably wearing those orange and champagne blue glasses, just trying to masquerade what you don't know about this team, thinking that you're going to go on a college football playoff run. What I will say is that Luke Altmaier does look very confident in year 3 running the system. He had 3 touchdowns. They also were able to kind of put their foot on the gas, and they didn't mess around. That is something that I think if you look at when it comes to Brett Bielema's squad, they're going to want to set the tempo early in this game. And they're going to do so in many ways. They can easily just trust the ground and pound rushing attack. Lottie being the main guy. You can also throw in potentially a little bit of a Caden Fagan. We know Luke Altmaier likes to run the football. They average 5.6 yards a play. This is a team that will easily run it down your throat, force your defense to have to play inside the box, and then you'll watch as Luke Altmaier hits a 15-yard slant pattern, and it's a one-on-one matchup that's going to go for 40 or 50 or even a touchdown. That is what Illinois does best. They got a good defensive line that will get after you. They will slow down your run, and they will make your quarterback win. And as much as I loved Darian Mensah, I thought that I watched all the Duke game. The Duke game was phenomenal on Thursday night. If you haven't watched it, go ahead. Just for Darian Mensah himself, he came into his own element. They kind of were like a toddler playing with their food. Eventually, they got it down the gullet, but it took a little bit of a while. It was a closer game than expected going into halftime, and this was a defensive line that, I get it, it's Elon. They're a really good team at the FCS level in their conference, but they finished with 163 rushing yards, 3.7 yards a play, 2 rushing touchdowns. That's going to be the formula for Illinois on the road. This is going to be a game that is going to be based off a time of possession. That's going to be based off of explosive plays. The quarterbacks in this game, in my opinion, are going to carry a lot of weight. Darian Mensah, I don't know if I told you guys this at the start of the year. He was my number 10 quarterback going into this season. I loved his tape at Tulane. I think that he is a great fit for what they want to run out in the system. He's an upgrade over what Malik Murphy was. He built a great rapport with the overall passing attack. Cooper Barkte had 117 yards. Quayshawn Brown had 93. Samir Hagens found the end zone twice. Andrew Anthony had that big 27-yard score. So there's a lot to like about this team. And then it's still Manny Diaz. That defense is going to be attentive. Chandler Rivers is one of the best cornerbacks in college football, and he plays for a program that he's bought into for the long haul. He was getting courted when Mike Elko left to go to Texas A&M, and he decided to stick with the program and was rewarded last year by being a part of a 9-3 team. Duke is one of my favorite plays when it comes to win total going into this year because of who is their quarterback. I really like their ground game. They found something with Anderson Castle. Jarquez Moore has a little bit of juice to him as well. So I think this is going to be a really interesting game on who can win the time possession, who can be better on third down, and which quarterback can be more explosive. The explosive part I like with Mensah, but all it takes is one throw across the middle of the field in a busted coverage by the Blue Devils for Luke Altmaier to win that title.
Duke's a pretty big favorite in this, but it has been bet down a little bit. Does it surprise you that Duke opened up at like 10.5 points? It's somewhere between like 8.5, 9.5 now.
I think a lot of respect is being paid to Illinois. I think more than anything, and
Sure.
again, like Illinois off the bat, I'm trying to remember who they played in week 1, but it was nobody special in the grand scheme.
Oh, that I totally screwed that up. That's not true at all. I totally
It was 2.5, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's 2.5.
Okay.
I'm completely wrong.
I'm
Ignore everything I said. Illinois is opened up its 2.5 and it's still there. I was looking.
I mean, Illinois on the road as a 2.5 point favorite, Duke being dogs on their own home. I think that's interesting. So, yeah, I just think that Illinois has some questions to answer offensively. I think what they present on defense, and they continue to put guys in the National Football League and continue to have to rebound from that. So I think Bielema has them on the right track. But I think the greater question that might come out of this weekend, same Michigan is able to topple Oklahoma in Norman. Now you're not necessarily really entertaining Illinois as that potential 4th team in the Big Ten. Maybe 5th is where you put them. Like, Michigan, if Underwood can propel them in the right direction, yeah, they would be one of those top 4 Big Ten teams. Right now, it's kind of on the fence, and I would throw in Minnesota out of respect, but even still. So Illinois has something to fight for here this weekend, and they would have to make up some ground if they lost this game.
I will push back a little bit and say that Duke also has a lot to fight for this weekend, because if we don't know with the other conferences besides the Big Ten and the SEC, are you a guaranteed 2-bid conference? Are you a guaranteed option to get that extra team in the college football playoff? For the standpoint of the ACC, if the SEC is struggling this year, maybe you're a 3-bid conference. And it seems facetious, but if everyone's going to be 9-3, 10-2 in the 9-3, 8-4 in the SEC, and you look at the ACC and they end up going 3 teams 10-2 or 2 teams 11-1 and 1 team 10-2, you can get on in. And the significance of a win over a Power 4 team that is being viewed by some as a college football playoff threat is massive. If Illinois loses this game, but they find a way to go 10-2 and they only have 1 loss at conference play, their spot in Indianapolis is still up for grabs. Their spot in the college football playoff is up for grabs. It's not that simple for a program that is built as a tier 2 and in most cases for the last, I would say, 25, 30 years, tier 3, tier 4 program in the ACC that is finding its spark at the right time. So as much as Illinois has a lot to lose this game, Duke has a lot to prove in this game that could help their pathway to the postseason.
I have a rule that I never go against. This is not gambling advice, right? If you're taking gambling advice from me, seek help. Go to a treatment center or something. I don't know. But I have a rule, a personal rule, that I always take a home dog when the spread is 3 or less. Like that is a hard, fast rule that I always go by. Miami fit that bill. I took them. They won. Listen, I'm not saying it always works, but it's worked for me more often than it hasn't. That said, I'm going to ride with Illinois here. I just think they're a little bit more solid of a team, and I have a little bit more. And I will probably on Monday when we get back together say, what the hell was I thinking? But I'm going to ride with Illinois. Give me 27-24. I don't know why I'm going with such a pretty score. It probably won't be that, but yeah, 3-point win. They cover the spread by 0.5 point. Cole?
I believe that Darian Mentz is a top 10 quarterback. I think he kind of makes himself known to the country this upcoming weekend. This is one of my best bets, actually. The under hitting. I don't see this being a high-scoring game. I see there being a lot of forced 3-and-outs. I see there being a lot of explosive plays being negated by great coverage downfield by Illinois and by Duke. I have 1 extra throw going in favor of Darian Mensa. And I think that special teams is going to be a big-time deal. We don't talk enough about special teams on this channel. This is going to be one of those games where I think that coverage, how you set up a return, how you get positioning on punt returns is so detrimental to the success. And I like Duke's a little bit more than I like Illinois, and I like Darian Mensa a little bit more than I like Luke Altmaier. I got a final score of 21-17. I think the under hits would be a total of 50.5.
I will take Illinois by a score of 20-17. I, however, would take a bet that would entertain this game going to overtime.
Ooh.
Oh.
That's actually, I could see that. I could easily see that. 17-17 in overtime pick.
Still the under. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, you're a sicko, and I will come back on here and I will do a 24. I will drink an entire glass of apple cider vinegar on Monday morning show if the over of this game hits a 50.5. That's how confident I am in this game is not going to hit the over.
Very interesting. I
was hoping you'd say something else like Fireball or something.
Right, yeah.
I have a job later on that day I got to do.
I attended the 9 overtime game between Illinois and Penn State. So part of me is just hoping that like they always have to go to overtime in some capacity and just be like struggle through that. But I also bet the under in that game, and it was 40, and the game's final was 20-18. And I was like, whew, still hit. Still got some beer money. All right.
I did see the rule change on overtime where both teams don't get a timeout in every single overtime going forward. I remember that Georgia Tech game last year just being like 17 hours.
Walking, yeah.
Yes. Like, also, just stay on one of the field, man.
Stay on the one end of the field.
Yes, man.
Do what they do with penalty kicks in soccer at this point. Just they switch out goalies. Just
or linemen. Yeah.
These 70-year-old referees, just think about them, right? Baylor and SMU. A little, man, the road gets a little bit easier, I guess, for Baylor, but another tough out-of-conference opponent here with SMU. Let's go Cole first on this one. I know you're a big Sawyer fan. Didn't have his best performance. His team didn't have their best performance against Auburn, but the road gets a little bit lighter against SMU, but certainly not as much as you'd like to have. They play two of the toughest teams back-to-back that anybody does in the country. Thoughts on this Baylor-SMU matchup?
Sawyer Robertson, the stat line doesn't tell the entire story. He was 27 of 48, which does say that he had his fair share of faults, but he still threw for 400 yards. I mean, when you throw for 400 yards and you lose a football game, there have been a lot of other issues that is outside of just the quarterback position. It was their inability to run the football efficiently with Bryson Washington, their inability to get anything from Caden Knighton. They averaged 2.7 yards a play. They had 3 runs of over 10 yards downfield. That says that they were a one-dimensional offense that could only win through the air. Now, the positive in all this was you saw some newcomers or players that you expected to finally have that breakout season break on out. Cole Wilson comes on in from Texas State. He was awesome. He was phenomenal. Good, deep shots down the field. He gets to be that vertical threat. Michael Trigg had 7 catches for 99 yards. He was targeted like 14 times. He was 14.1 yards a play. He had that big touchdown. Nearly came down with the other touchdown that would have brought them within a score in the fourth quarter on that 4th down stop. You saw good play from Ashton Hawkins. Josh Cameron still is a very good wide receiver that we barely saw in this game because he was getting blanketed by Auburn's solid secondary. So I'm not down entirely on this Baylor team. I still think that your pathway to Arlington is a little daunting, but remember, this is a non-conference game. If you win your conference, automatically you get into the college football playoffs. So I'm not entirely wrong by still trusting them. When it came to this run defense for SMU, it's going to be another battle. They allowed less than 115 yards on the ground to East Texas A&M. They allowed only 3 runs of over 10 yards. They did give up a touchdown, but that came really late in the game. And on the opposing side, Kevin Jennings, Chris Johnson, TJ Harden, and what you're going to get in Darren McFell, all 4 of these guys can easily run it up your throat, and they could prevent problems for this defensive line. Something that worried me, and something that was very evident, and we talked about this in the preview for Baylor last week, was their inability to stop the run last season. Their aggressiveness in the secondary was kind of hit and miss, but they were bullied because of the bodies that they had in the trenches that just didn't work. And what happened in this game? Well, they gave up over 300 rushing yards. They gave up 4 touchdowns. You gave up over 130 yards to Jackson Arnold. And Kevin Jennings is not Jackson Arnold, but there are a lot of similar traits where if he sees open field, he's going to tuck and run. He is going to make plays with his legs. He is going to be somebody that will allow him to win and then get out of bounds with the fresh set of downs, hit reset. So there are some things that you look at in this matchup that are eerily similar to the Auburn game. The big question I'm going to have from Baylor's standpoint, we'll get to SMU in a quick second, but from Baylor's standpoint is, are you finally going to make the necessary adjustments on the fly with your defense? They played 2 shell high safety the entire game. They never played somebody down in the box to take away the rushing attack. And so they basically said that we're going to not let you win through the air, so therefore you're going to beat us on the ground. Well, at this point, you don't have the wide receivers that Auburn has at SMU. You have good wide receivers, you have good weapons, but nowhere near what currently is at Auburn. That's not the case. So you can have the opportunity to maybe bail just a little bit, send somebody near the box, and play that physicality to take away the run. Make a guy like Kevin Jennings beat you through the air. Now, from SMU standpoint, they had a really solid showcase against East Texas A&M. This is going to be a game to where they get a little bit of a blessing in disguise because it's at home. It's an 11 a.m. kick, so they're going to be at Gerald Ford Field. You had a good connectivity with the wide receivers. Romeo Brelson finished with 121 yards. Jalen Cooper finished with 73 yards. They both got at least 3 passes downfield of over of explosive plays of over 25 yards. The thing that I wonder about in this game is, can you force Sawyer Robertson to stay in the pocket and not be able to win with a deep shot? So he's going to have to win with the intermediate game that allows your open field tackling to kind of win. And when you get those opportunities to get Baylor to bite and play the run, then you start taking those shots downfield. You get the explosive touchdowns. You get the 20, 30-yard plays. It's something that I think is going to be massively beneficial, and it's going to be a swing point in this game because we know that a guy in Sawyer Robertson can throw it. We know that he is not afraid to throw it. We also know that Kevin Jennings can throw it, but he can also run it. If you take away one of those elements for both teams, it may give the other opponent the advantage.
Oh, Tom might be muted.
I pretty much entirely agree with Cole's assessment of the game. My biggest concern is Baylor's ability to stop the run. Obviously, I think Auburn is going to be able to field better athletes at the skill positions than what you'll see from SMU, but just that four-headed monster of SMU that was pretty much a carryover from last year and has even improved. I like that ability. I like Kevin Jennings having another year to work with Rhett Lashley because he looked shell-shocked in the game against Clemson, at least in the first half. He looked shell-shocked against Penn State. Has he matured to that point? He can be a more sophisticated leader for SMU. We were just talking about the hierarchy of the ACC. Damn, this is a great opportunity for SMU to put a little distance between them and some of the other teams in that top 5, top 6 of the conference. I just don't like this matchup for Baylor, to the points Cole just made. The ability to run the football with so many different weapons. I think SMU takes this one.
Score?
It's the interesting thing is that SMU is favored by only 3, but the over-under 65.5. So, I mean, it should be a shootout. Like, I do expect it to be high scoring, very similar to the way that Auburn and Baylor was. I hope to see Sawyer Robinson keep them in it. I think Sawyer Robinson will be able to keep Baylor a little bit closer in terms of the score than it was against Auburn. But give me 35-27 SMU.
TJ?
Yeah, I'll go pretty close to that over under. I'll go 34-31, but I'll take Baylor in this. I'll say that Sawyer bounces back. I just want to see SMU do it against what I think is a really good team. And I know they had wins last year that were great, but they also had a lot of wins that weren't really that impressive. The turnovers against Duke, I mean, they beat a Florida State team that was terrible. They blew it late against Clemson. Well, I guess they had a big comeback against Clemson. I'll flip that around a little bit. So, yeah, they played well in the first half against Clemson. BYU, I don't know, man. I'm not as high on them this year as I was last, and you guys took more of the preview. So, all that said, I'll take Baylor by a field goal.
Look, I have one team in the playoff, and I have another team going 7-5. Even if I'm wrong, I'm going to be wrong and go down on my team. I'm taking Baylor. I'm hammering the over. I got 38-31 final score. I just don't know if you're going to stop Sawyer Robertson. Like, I genuinely don't think that there are going to be many teams that will make him throw for less than 275 yards. I think that he's going to throw for at least 300 in this game. And ultimately, if you get any bit of soliloquy and consistency when it comes to the ground game, that just gives you a second blessing. It's going to feel a lot like LSU circa 2023, where you're going to win through the air. Your offensive line is going to do enough to protect, but you're going to have to ask yourself every single game, all right, our offense scored 38. Is that enough? No? Okay, we may lose this one. That's just going to be, I think, Baylor's defense this year, but they get the job done at Gerald Ford Stadium.
Let's go on to Iowa and Listen, I love rivalry games played this early. Before we even start talking about the game, there is nothing better to me than getting something like this early in the year. Now, I love them late in the year too. Don't get me wrong. But I would love. Remember. I don't know if you guys followed this rivalry as much, just being where you are and who you cheer for. But man, for years, Florida State used to play Miami on Labor Day. That was the best. Like, that was the best I mean, it sucked when you lost, and we lost more of them than we won. But man, start out the year with a win against a rival. I think college football needs more of this. Maybe when we kind of consolidate and get things kind of figured out with what we're doing from realignment and everything else. But I would like to see more of this. Let's go Big Ten first here. We'll go Tom again. Iowa State.
Just for the sake of speed in this one, I do not like this game for Iowa. Mark Gronowski really struggled. Granted, I mentioned it before. He was dealing with cramps and just didn't look like he was 100%. That's something I understand he was dealing with in the offseason coming from South Dakota State. So you're getting acclimated to a higher level of play. I think there were high expectations for him to kind of revolutionize the quarterback position at Iowa, or at least bring it into the future. He was 8 of 15 for 44 yards and 1 touchdown against Albany. So not great. 34-7 victory for Iowa in that game. But Iowa still was very much Iowa. Ran for 310 yards, 5.8 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. So again, kind of going off of more what Iowa State did against Kansas State in Ireland, because last week Iowa State was able to get the victory against South Dakota, 55-7. So kind of a chance for them to come back home, get settled, get over the jet lag, that sort of thing. I think Iowa State has got momentum and confidence coming off of that victory in Ireland, and especially knowing that they can hang tough. And they were not the better team against Kansas State. Kansas State should have won that game. Iowa State hung tough and finished, so I give them credit for that. Iowa's going to have to do hardcore Iowa things within this game. They're going to have to play time of possession, field position. They're going to have to run the hell out of the football. Gronowski, not entirely sure what his health is going to be like for this game. I think if they have a chance to win, he's going to have to be much more mobile, and he's going to have to be a lot better in the passing game than he was obviously against Albany, but a lot of that depends on his health. So I think the one constant with Iowa is what Kirk Ferentz knows. They're going to run the football. They're going to run play action pass to the tight end. They're going to do what they always do, and they'll play disciplined defense. So can Rocco Becht and company overcome that? I think the talent gap is larger now between Iowa State and Iowa than it's been in a while. And that breaks my heart as a Big Ten fan, as someone who respects Iowa football. It sucks to see the position they're in. But when it comes to the CyHawk this year, I lean towards the Cyclones.
I'm going to be really interested in 3 main things. Number 1, what are we going to see from this tight end room for Iowa State? I think that they're going to have to be such a big point this season for Rocco Becht just because their frame. They're both 6'6". We saw the 2 big touchdown passes downfield to, I believe it's Benjamin Brahmer, if I'm not mistaken. He had the 2 scores in the number 9, had the big time score against 18. My apologies. Had the big time score against Kansas State. Gabe Burkle's another one. He's 6'6", if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to have to get the ball in their hands. They're going to have to make not just plays, but they're going to have to be consistent. I want to see a little bit more from Chase Soule if he's able to get involved. That was a big time name that people liked coming out of ECU. So I think that his role is going to be pretty substantial. Who's going to be that other third weapon that we talked about for Iowa State? You know they're going to run the football. They have Dylan Lee, Carson Hansen, Abu Sama. None of them have really broken on out, but they do have some. They've had some success this season. That's a big thing I'm looking for Iowa State. Can you get the ball to your tight ends that can just mismatch what we've seen for Iowa's standpoint? For Iowa, you got to control the time possession. That is just a non-negotiable. You got to let Mark Gronowski play his game. And whatever is his game that day is totally fine, but you got to let him play his game. Think about this for a second, boys. He rushed for in that game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 39, 40 yards. He had 2 runs of over 10 yards downfield. He threw for 44. And he was like 8 of 17 or 8 of 16 or 8 of 15 or something like that. Yeah. So it's like, you look at those things and you say to yourself, if the passing attack is somehow working, if this is a game to where we got to trust him to take a couple of shots downfield, so be it. But if this is a game where also what we didn't see in Dublin for a mobile quarterback like Avery Johnson, hey, you got to make his legs the key asset and element to the success of this game. Then by all means, it has to be that. That's the way it's going to go, because I trust that the defense is going to bail him out of trouble, at least on several drives early on to set the tone. But the third thing, 2 names I truly believe will decide the end of this matchup. The first one is Sam Phillips. He is a returner. He averaged 46 return yards in the game against UAlbany. The other one is going to be Aiden Flora. He averaged 58.8 returns on his punt returns, his 2 punt returns for Iowa State. One of them is going to make the big time play. One of them is going to set up excellent field position. In a game like this with 2 coaches in the state that are known for their physical brand of football, they're also known for one other element: special teams. You're going to need a special teams play. Whichever side shows up and gets a better special teams play out, that's the one that's walking away with the dub.
I really like Iowa State here. And for a lot of the reasons that Tom mentioned, but you know what? As much as I love this rivalry, every time I think that it's a very clear, this team should beat this team, it typically goes the other way. Like, that's where my gut is with this. I'm going to pick Iowa State and have about 4% confidence, because every time I think I know what's going to happen in this dumb rivalry, it's not a dumb rivalry for everybody watching. Just, it's dumb the way it works out. I'm going to pick Iowa State here. I'm going to go 27-21. But man, not with a lot of confidence. Rivalry weekend in week 2 is absolutely absurd, and I love it. But give me the Cyclones.
Give me the Cyclones 21-18. So Iowa still covers the spread, but definitely bet the under in this thing. Do not take the over.
Oh, yeah.
I
agree there.
It's 41.5. Yeah, take the under.
Do you buy, before Cole goes, do you buy the phrase life's too short to bet unders? Like, I rarely bet unders. Like, if when I say bet the under, it means I'm not going to bet on that game.
With Iowa,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Consistently your friend.
That's fair. I can't watch the game if I bet an under. Like, that's my problem, because I want to see points, like that. That's where my thinking is. Cole, sorry for sidetracking everyone.
So Tom took Iowa State, or you took Iowa?
I took Iowa State.
And you took Iowa State.
Correct.
Fine. I will go down the ship and say that the year where Kirk Ferentz and an offense finds a life in the CyHawk Bowl, which also probably one of the more better names for, I think, an actual rivalry that people don't talk about enough. CyHawk Bowl, awesome. Mark Gronowski, make me proud.
We did put that there, yeah, the CyHawk Bowl. So we put it on our rundown. So listen, I am excited for this game. There's some hate for week 2. There's some good stuff happening this weekend. CyHawk Bowl, you mentioned the Duke, Illinois, Baylor, SMU, obviously the big one that we already previewed, which is on the channel, Michigan, Oklahoma, and then the last one that we'll get to here in just a minute, South Florida and UF. Before we get to that one, Mississippi State and Arizona State.
Cowbells versus dumbbells. Let's go.
Listen, the line in this game is interesting, only being about 7 points. Last year, this was a 7-point game early in the year, before we knew how good Arizona State would be. It's on the road this time instead of being out in Tempe. All that said, this feels like one that Mississippi State would really like to have, but Arizona State cannot. I mean, they can't drop this, can they, Cole?
They can. I mean, they absolutely
with the Big 12, yeah, I get it. But, like, you look at that and you say, how many of these Big 12 teams are they going to beat if they can't beat Mississippi State, right?
No. We're not going to do that. One thing we're not going to do on this show is just look at a logo and say last season was last season, therefore it's going to translate on over. The offensive identity that is Mississippi State is miles better than what it was last season underneath Jeff Lebby. You see the rushing attack with Fluff Bothwell joining the crew. Davin Booth had a great game against Southern Miss. You saw the tight end. I always blank on his name. Sadi Taroque. I know I'm saying it wrong, and I got to get better at learning how to pronounce it because I'm going to be saying it a lot. Had a big 58-yard catch. The offensive, the veer and shoot that they like to run out with Jeff Lebby. Vertical passing downfield. They have the weapons to do that now. They brought in a Brennan Thompson from Oklahoma that was hand recruited by Jeff Lebby to leave Texas and go to Norman. They brought in an Anthony Evans from Georgia who has great straight line speed. Jordan Mosley is a really good receiver. So they have the pieces, and the offensive line did a good job for the most part protecting Blake Shapen. They could easily win this game because of their offense. The defense is what I worry about because of, yes, for the most part, it kept Southern Miss in check, but there still were far too many penalties allowed in this game. They out-penalized Southern Miss by 9 penalties. And the other thing is, they allowed Southern Miss to convert, if I'm not mistaken, 60% of all third down attempts. this is not the offense you want to do it against. Now, I will say, I was highly underwhelmed by the performance of Arizona State's offense in the game against Northern Arizona. Don't get me wrong, Sam Levitt was awesome. He had like 3 touchdowns on the day. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. But that jolt in the backfield that thought you were going to see with Kanye Udo really wasn't there. Nobody truly separated themselves as a wide receiver 2 opposite of Jordan Tyson. So they have got to get better. And the credit where credit's due also to Kenny Dillingham. He was very, very, very much dismayed by the game that they played out against Northern Arizona. The Lumberjacks were an FCS school, and he was mad that this thing was ever even remotely talked about in a negative light. So I think he's going to have them mentally prepared. Starkville is going to be raving. The cowbells are going to be humming. So my big thing is that if you can't establish a secondary wide receiver, if you are Arizona State, can you make sure that you have fewer penalties? Can you make sure that you don't you don't have self-inflicted wounds that allow you to be pushed back? That you don't end up watching yourself go from being in a 3rd and 1 to a 3rd and 6 because you don't know the snap count and your offensive tackle gets a false start. Those are things that when you go into Starkville, knowing what the sounds that echo into the Mississippi State sky, it is just a horrid concern. And if you don't mentally prepare yourself for it, you're going to lose this football game. Now, the good news is that I do like Arizona State's defense. They return 9 starters. They have a newcomer that is joining the squad that was a really good player last season. The staff continuity is another thing that's really big. They didn't lose anybody. They didn't lose anybody of their offensive line, their defensive line. Like the entire staff is back for another year. So that gives them the benefit of the doubt too. And I think playing on the road in this environment could be a tone setter that gets them back into the line of being a favorite in the Big 12. Like that's a given in my potential.
What is the I'm trying to think of the way to phrase this, and I'm drawing a blank. See what happens when we do a nearly 10 p.m. show.
My fault.
Does Sam Levitt in this game, like what would be his most likely scenario? Could you see a takeover type game where he just goes off against that defense?
I mean, he kind of had to, unfortunately, against Northern Arizona, the points that Cole was just making. I mean, you look at his line, 25 of 39 attempts against Northern Arizona, 257 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, then 7 carries, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the leading rusher. He was tied with Kyson Brown, at least in carries and rushing yards, but 2 touchdowns on the ground. Like he had to be the center of the universe to beat Northern Arizona. So I'm encouraged because I think that's the leap that a lot of people were hoping to see from Sam Levitt. Could he be the guy who was more than just the dude handing the ball off to Cam Scatterbo? He proved, I think, at least against Northern Arizona in a situation where he shouldn't have had to prove it there, that he can step up and be that guy. My issue with this is that Arizona State, it's a little bit different of a situation than what Mississippi State was dealing with against Southern Miss in week 1, where there were people saying that Southern Miss could pull off the upset. Now, obviously that didn't happen, but between Jordan Tyson and Kyson Brown, you have 2 pretty solid receiving options. And Tyson went off for 12 receptions, 141 yards and 2 touchdowns against Northern Arizona. It's an inferior secondary is an understatement of the century, but Southern Miss peppered the ball around a lot. And in the end, Braylon Braxton, who also eerily similar to what Sam Levitt was dealing with, 26 of 39, about 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then 12 carries for 58 yards. He was also the leading rusher. So I think there's evidence, at least early in the season, that if Sam Levitt has another game, the style of which he just had against Northern Arizona, and he moves the ball around a little bit more variety, then they should be okay in this game. But if they can bottle him up running the football and they can maybe limit Tyson, Mississippi State has a chance to pull this thing off.
I also want to correct myself. Southern Miss was 10 of 19 on 3rd down. And I also want to make sure that I give credit where credit's due. There was only 14 penalties, but it was 8 penalties for Southern Miss. The other thing that I got to make sure is clear, and I got called out on this on SEC Unfiltered, so you are right if you are a Mississippi State fan. Arizona State was very undisciplined in their 38-19 win over the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks. They had 12 penalties for 93 yards. So things that could really make or break you in this game.
Remember on PTI when they used to have the guy that would do all the stat corrections and stuff? Cole does that for himself. That's really impressive. So everybody, round of applause for Cole Thompson. Let's predict it. Give me Arizona State. 34-28.
Yeah, I do like that. I'm going to go.
Don't you dare steal it.
Arizona State has a 6.5 point spread. Over under is 59.5. I'm going to go the under on this one, just barely though. Like, give me 30-27, Arizona State.
TJ, your rule is life is too short to bet the under. Is that your rule?
Here goes Cole.
No, I'm asking, is that your rule?
Yeah, it's way too short.
Yeah, life is not too short. For me, the rule is Mississippi State's defense is too bad to ever take the under. Always bet the over when it comes to Mississippi State, especially in win totals. This could be a high-scoring game. I am hammering the over. It's one of my best bets of the week. I got 38-34 final score. I do think that Arizona State pulls this out.
Last one. USF improved. Last one. USF impressed a lot of people by beating Boise State. The road only gets tougher with Florida and Miami games against both of them on the road coming up. Well, did they play Miami at home? Is that, I could be wrong on that, but that's not what we're talking about, so it doesn't matter. Florida and South Florida in the swamp. Florida, Cole, we haven't really talked about this. My Florida fan friends were not, I haven't watched this game completely. I did watch the highlights. Florida fans not super impressed. I mean, as impressed as you can be with a 55-0 win. But again, against kind of a high school team, no offense to the Long Island University Sharks, who have a great mascot and uniform combo. But Florida fans not real happy with the way that everything went down, but also understand, well, how interested were they in this, that, and the other. This is the prove it week against USF, and then it only gets tougher from there. But thoughts on Florida, maybe just quick thoughts on the performance against LIU, and then what this matchup looks like against USF.
Why, yes, they are traveling to Coral Gables to take on the likes of the Miami Hurricanes. I will be the stat corrector in this show. That way you don't care. I care. I care about being right, and I care about being factual on this show. Listen, what are you going to learn? I don't mean to be rude to the Florida fine folks, because if they have been nothing but kind to me, especially in my videos over at SEC Unfiltered, but what are you supposed to learn in a win over LIU? You saw the team, what's it called? Not portfolio. When you all line up together.
Team photo.
Team photo?
Yeah, there's like a name for it. Whatever it is. I'm stupid, and I shouldn't.
In 08, it was called the team mugshot, I believe. But anyway, keep going.
Anyway, you saw the type of talent you were going up against. The bottom line is that you knew that you should have overpowered them. And also, you kind of figured that you weren't going to get the full version of DJ Lagway, because if you didn't have to have the full version of DJ Lagway. Bottom line is that if you're struggling with the Long Island Sharks in week 1 in your backyard, you have more problems than just a quarterback that may or may not be at 100%. Like, that's just exactly where you don't want to be. And there still were a lot of things I like. Jaden Baugh, I've said it on this channel, said it on other channels. I think that he is going to be the best running back in the SEC by the time that we get to the season's end. He is a man amongst boys. He has the physical speed and the home run threat. He is everything that you want bottled up into a sophomore running back that is only going to get better with more reps under his belt. And he's not having to share the backfield with Montrell Johnson. I saw a lot of good plays. Like, yes, the Vernell Brown catch was the play of the afternoon. But I also saw him get 2 more grabs to finish with 79 yards. I saw Hayden Hansen break on free for a 16-yard touchdown. I saw Tony Livingston have a 12-yard score. I saw J. Michael Sturdivant find his way into the end zone. I saw Nashawn Montgomery, the other 4-star freshman, kind of set himself apart. I also watched, as you saw, TJ Abrams, that we spent no time talking about this offseason, get involved in the passing attack. So there's weapons this year, and I didn't even mention Trey Wilson, who, by the way, had the best stat in college football this week. You ready? 5 catches for -4 yards and a touchdown. He had everything right this week, and he's so talented as a player that it's just like, you're nitpicking here. And I understand why you want to nitpick, because of what happened last season, how things went off the rails last year. But I try to look at this as a percentage of, your defense was missing several starters. Your offense didn't have Dallas Wilson out there, and it still didn't have didn't have one of your star running backs. It didn't have a full cohesionness, and you hung 55 over Long Island. I think this is going to be a bigger litmus test. And what I like about Florida's schedule is, I personally believe that Texas still is going to be a top 2 defense in college football this season. I know what we saw against Ohio State to hold that team to 14 points with that much arsenal, I think speaks volumes about where this team is. You're building yourself up little by little for this offense to understand what it's going to look like when it faces off against a defense that has superstars like Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill. South Florida is the next step up. And then afterwards it's LSU. And then afterwards it's Miami. And then afterwards it's Texas. So you get to learn a little bit more about where your offensive strengths and weaknesses are going into this game before you have to go travel down to Death Valley. Another critical matchup. I think that this is a really good South Florida team. They have a quarterback that we got to give a lot more respect to with Byron Brown. They have a head coach that, in my opinion, is the first phone call I am making if I'm a Power 4 program looking for a new personnel member in Alex Golish. They have a defense that got after Boise State, made them one-dimensional in the second half, and the only way that they were able to find any success was through the air. This isn't a game to where I think that you're worried about Florida being upset. What I think this is a game is that you're intrigued on how long is South Florida going to hang around in the swamp. And are we going to see those same issues that we watched last season that hindered the success early on for Billy Napier and this Florida squad? There's a lot of things to like about South Florida. Chaz Nimrod is back for another season. You have really good play in the backfield with their running back room. Byron Brown led the team in rushing touchdowns and yards after contact. So he does a little bit of everything, and that defense can get after you and force you into making some mistakes. It's not a game I'm worried about if I'm Florida. It's a game that I'm intrigued about as a bettor and as a college football fan. And remember this for South Florida fans, because we do talk about G5 programs on this channel all the time. I want to make that clear. You win this one, you can lose your next one to Miami and run through the American Conference. You should still be the favorite to be the G5 representative in the college football playoff. All you need is one win against either one of these squads and hold your own in the conference. You will have the resume that boosts you up. And they do feel like that they at least can make this an interesting battle.
Which one's more likely before we go on?
What do you mean?
Who do they match up with better? Neither one is great matchups, right? But like, who do they match up better with, Florida or Miami? Speaking on USF,
I think it's Florida. I do. I don't know if it's because of I like what I saw from Miami's defense, and I don't know enough about Florida's defense and who's going to be out. But I don't think it's either really a great matchup for them. I feel like at least with Florida, they can put up some points.
If you're facing Beck, I like Beck's poise more than I like Lagway's right now, but I'm a little bit more scared of Lagway's legs. Like, it's just, it's a lot of problems there. I'll be brief on this one. I loved what South Florida did against Boise State, and it was clear to me that this team and the coaching staff saw stuff on tape when it came to Boise State, and they're like, we can get these guys. We can get these guys in our house. Everybody's looking past us. This is more the brand doing the heavy lifting, the brand of Boise State, having just been in the college football playoff last year. Boy, did Boise miss Ashton Genty, a generational talent at tailback. Maddox Madsen, no one ever confused him with an elite quarterback. He is perfectly average at the college level. USF made him very, very uncomfortable. I was just looking at the stat line. I couldn't believe he was only sacked once. It was 1 sack, 5 tackles for loss. The quarterback pressures and hurries have got to be through the roof. The fact that they took away the running game, which, again, there really is no heir apparent to Genty there. There will just be steady play for them throughout the rest of their schedule. But USF took advantage of that. I love what Byron Brown did. I am curious to see what the body language is going to be like in the first half. The first quarter, I think USF comes out with their hair on fire, trying to make things very uncomfortable for Lagway, but I do see Florida just kind of leaning on them as this game continues. And it's not necessarily a game where they're going to be attempting to look at their depth too early, but this is something where Florida is maybe hoping in the back of their mind is like, hey, maybe late third quarter, fourth quarter, we can start getting some guys in there and really taking a look at some pieces for later on in the season. So they just can't afford to look ahead too quickly because USF will get them. But I still like Florida to bring the Bulls back down to earth.
Yeah, I really would love, for several reasons. I live in Tampa. My wife graduated from USF. I don't like UF, like all the things. Like, it'd be great. But yeah, objectively, I just don't know that I have enough confidence that they can really do this. You would need a really bad DJ Lagway game. And even then, like Cole mentioned, if he's playing poorly, you just start handing the ball off. And I mean, if USF can stop the run against what I think is a very good offensive line and a very good running game, I mean, then hats off to them. Yeah, they deserve it. Put them in the playoff now, right? Like, if they can stay, relatively clean through conference play. But yeah, I struggle to find too many ways outside of just a Lagway meltdown game where USF doesn't, or where UF doesn't win this thing going away. Something like 37. Give me their kicker to make a few kicks because he struggled this weekend. But yeah, 37-17. Maybe USF gets one late to make it a little more competitive. Maybe it's a good game, in the first quarter. Maybe it's 14-10, or maybe it's 10-7 or something, or maybe it's even tied, right? So, but I think that Florida is able to push them pretty hard. And so, yeah, 37-17 is what I'll go with.
Florida's favored by 17.5, and the over-under is 56.5. So I'm going to go with, give me 35-13 Florida.
Yeah, I already did the prediction on this show. I think this, you know what I see actually in this game, and I said this on SEC Unfiltered, not to do a shameless plug or anything. But to be honest, I think this is going to go very similar to the Boise State game, but flipped in terms of how this game goes, where South Florida maybe jumps out to an early lead. It's 17-7 at halftime, 10-7 at halftime, and then you just turn, look at that backfield and go, time to go to work. And Jaden Baugh, who I may have thrown a little bit of money down as a sleeper pick to win the Heisman Trophy because if I like him that much, I think he is that talented of a running back, just goes off in the second half. They start to play in the box. And the thing that you got to remember about the South Florida team, they allowed over 250 passing yards to this offensive personnel for Boise State. There are weapons that would be starting as freshmen at Boise State that are third teamers down in Gainesville. I said 38-17 is the I said 41-17 is the final score. I'm going to stay with it. 41-17 the final score.
All right, that's it. We previewed week 2, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matchups, and then we did one the other day too. So that's what we got for you this week on the Power 2. Next week we might be back to a little bit more of a regular schedule, but we had a lot of people in here tonight. So appreciate those that watched. If you haven't, go over to the College Football Addiction YouTube channel and hit subscribe so that you never miss a live episode of the Power 2. Cole, Tom, you know what we never do on here? We'll just quickly go. I know we've gone over time, but do you guys ever, when I finish every episode of Double Fries, I don't know how we started this. We started giving shout outs. Like we would just give a random shout out to anybody we want in the world to end the show. So let's go around the horn real quick and see what you got.
Tom, I'll let you go first. Can I go last?
I'll go first. My shout out is to Penn State Athletic Director Pat Kraft. Please, on behalf of all Penn State fans, do not make us an Adidas school. We have heard for years from former players and coaches and personnel how Adidas gear just sucks. I refuse to buy Penn State Adidas gear. I am wearing Penn State Nike gear. I will only ever wear Penn State Nike gear. And if you just switch to Adidas, I will just buy unbranded Penn State gear. Like I will avoid it at all costs. I get it if it's an attempt to make more money, that sort of thing. It's an arms race. I get it. I understand the business of it. But as a fan, I hate it. So Pat Kraft, if you're listening to this, please know that I love you. You're doing a great job. We really like you. But please don't do this. Please.
I know I mentioned around the horn when I just said that, but shout out to Wilbon and Kornheiser at PTI. Still the best show that exists on that network. I tweeted this, and then Tom actually put it in our group message before the show as well. But I don't know how many more days they've got because all they do is have reasonable takes and actually talk ball. But shout out to those guys. They do a great job. I grew up on that. I'm sure you guys did too. And that was the first podcast I ever downloaded back when podcasts were just becoming a thing because I couldn't watch it every single day. So I would download it to my iPod, not even iPhone, download it to my iPod, listen to it that evening or the next morning. And I love that stuff. Before we had the 24-hour news cycle where you could check everything on Twitter and all this other stuff, when I was 12, 13 years old, that was the first podcast I ever remember downloading. And so those guys are great. Cole, how you finishing here?
Shout out to Kyle Thompson, to Scarlett Thompson, and welcome to the world, Emily Reese Thompson.
Let's go.
Beautiful.
I am very excited to meet you. My sister-in-law and my brother are currently at the hospital. I got the text message in the middle of the show, code pink, which means she is on her way. Pieces, Uncle Cole loves you, and he wants you to know that always remember to chase after your goals. You do shows like this, you do things like this. It may take some time, but never give up on yourself. And if it's the one lesson that I teach you on this planet, it's the one I hope that you remember me most for. Welcome to the world, kiddo.
Well, now that we're all grabbing tissues because Cole took it down that path.
And also remember that Michigan will finish this year 8.
I was going to say she's being born at a good time because she's never seen an Alabama loss.
Nope.
If you think
She's
about
also never seen an Alabama win, which is going to happen first.
Every coach I guess has said I hate losing more than I love winning, so she's doing all right. But congratulations to them. Congratulations to you, Cole. That's awesome. And I'm going to try not to get emotional on the end of the show. So, all right, Power 2. We'll be back on Monday at noon. Enjoy the college football this weekend. We'll talk to you soon.